You're listening to Graphic Novel Explorers Club podcast, an audio book club.
Greetings, explorers. I'm one of your hosts, Dennis, joined by
Aubrey
and
Johnny.
Today we are discussing The Good Asian, Volume 1, by writer Pornsak Pichetshote and artist Alexandre Tefenkgi. We hope you have read today's title because all three of us have read the book, so beware, spoilers ahead. Become an official explorer by joining our Patreon group. Explorers get early access to episodes, specials, polls, discussions, and other extras. Graphic Novel Explorers Club is available wherever fine podcasts are found, including YouTube, so be sure to subscribe and leave a review.
That's right, explorers. We're looking at The Good Asian Volume 1, an Eddy Hark mystery, which makes it sound like there's going to be more of these down the road. Do you guys read mystery novels very much, or?
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I used to be really into them as a kid.
Oh, really?
I was definitely, the Nancy Drew Hardy Boys sort of thing as a kid.
I read the Easy Rollins series. I haven't read very many mystery novels.
I love like Agatha Christie movies, at least movies based on her books. I was a big fan of The Maltese Falcon, so I'm sort of invested in noir, I guess, without thinking about it.
Oh, I categorize you because you said mystery, and I categorize mystery and noir into two different categories. So, like, mystery, I think of as like Agatha Christie, and then noir is like Maltese Falcon, The Big Sleep, and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, I guess more noir movies.
Way to throw us off.
I did like The Long Goodbye, starring Elliot Gould from the 70s. It was a good one. And of course, The Big Lebowski.
Classic noir.
It is a noir movie. Like we said, writer is Pornsak Pichetshote. I think I said that wrong. And he joins the pantheon of mispronounced names. Artist Alexandre Tefenkgi, same. Alexandra, you're automatically in the pantheon of mispronounced names. Colorist Lee Loughridge. Loughridge, maybe? Also, this is just an all-star cast of mispronounced names. Letterer and designer Jeff Powell. And a historical consultant, Grant Din, who is a genealogist. I looked this guy up, and there's a lot of historical stuff at the end of this book and scattered throughout it.
Oh, for sure. And I appreciate the fact that it's presented in a great, accessible way without being a wall of text. But at the same time, what I appreciate, because it has so much historical information that it's trying to pass along, there's a whole thing in the back of the trade where it actually goes into the actual facts. So you don't actually have to look up a separate Wikipedia page if you don't want to. It actually lays it all out there, which I think is really accessible and very interesting to learn about. And yeah, I was very happy to learn that Pornsak was a fellow Thai American. And I'm noticing a lot more Thai people being involved in some of the media I consume, which I find exciting. There's a cartoon on Disney Plus called Amphibia, which is the main character is actually a Thai American gal, and it's written by a Thai American. And so it's really great to see, some more Asian representation.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and plus last episode we reviewed
Miss Marvel.
Also written by a Middle Eastern American, or it was co-created by a Middle Eastern American about Pakistani, and get some Asian representation here finally. Where was I? Oh yeah. So this is a fairly new book. It was published by Image Comics in 2021, I think in the spring of 2021. It's set in 1936, and our main character is Eddy Hark. He's a Chinese American cop investigating the disappearance of Ivy Chin, a young woman who was employed by the wealthy Carroway family of San Francisco. We learn Eddie's ties to the Carroway family, his ties to the Chinese community living in Chinatown, and just how much self-loathing he has for his role in upholding America's xenophobia at the beginning of the 20th century. Our main characters are Edison Eddy Hark. He is one of the first Chinese American cops in the nation, and his mother worked for the Carroway family when Eddie was a child. And after she died, he was left in their care. And then there's Mason and Frankie Carroway, the patriarch and son of a family that owns a sugar company based in Hawaii. Mason is in declining health when the story picks up. And Frankie and Eddie have a estranged sibling relationship. even though they're not related by blood. They grew up together. There's Detective O'Malley, a goon cop working in Chinatown. His son died of an opium overdose in Chinatown, and he is out to get everybody. And then Terrence Chang, a lawyer, Chinese lawyer, seems to also be like one of the first lawyers in the community who is representing the 6 companies, which is like
It's a community group that essentially forms an ad hoc unofficial government for the Chinatown area.
And the building they operate out of is actually in Chinatown. You can still go to it to this day, and it seems to also still be sort of a community goodwill organization. It's on Stockton Street in San Francisco.
The phone area is actually a bank now. The one with the pagoda-looking building.
Really?
I've passed by it a million times going to Chinatown. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
All right.
Did you guys know that Eddie is based on a real detective?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
A Hawaiian detective. What was his name?
Chong Apana?
Yeah. He was from Honolulu. He was actually the basis for Charlie Chan, which Charlie Chan obviously was a gross misrepresentation of Asians. But regardless, so it was actually based on a real person. That was pretty cool.
That's where Eddie's based out of when the story picks up. He's coming back from Honolulu to figure out where Ivy's gone missing. Mason, the patriarch of the family, is in love with her or something, infatuated. Something's going on. And when she leaves, Mason has like a stroke or something like that. So
Charlie Chan was bad? I think I was under the mistaken impression that Charlie Chan was written by Asian writers. Is that not the case?
Well, the representation in film was they had an actual white actor doing yellowface.
Oh, boo.
And doing the real stereotypical, like,
bad accent.
Right.
Yeah.
If you watch...
that's horrible.
If you watch one of my favorite films, Death by Murder, there's a version of Charlie Chan in there. It's a take on Charlie Chan. It's a parody, but it's basically accurate to how they represented Asians back then.
Got it. But the book series, like the original book series, is written by Asian writers, right? Then they just made it racist for the movies?
I don't know. No, I know, I do know about the films, but yeah, I wasn't aware until much later that they were actually a book series.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe I completely misunderstood.
Yeah, it looks like it was written by Earl Durr Biggers.
Oh, yeah.
But he seems to be Caucasian American.
The book that I have is Charlie Chan, The Untold Story of the Honorable Detective and His Rendezvous with American History by Yun-Tae Wang. So I was thinking of the story about the story. Is the book I was thinking of. My bad.
But yeah, you could tell they did just a ton of research for this story. It's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate it. I mean, I don't know Pornsak's heritage. I mean, obviously he identifies as a Thai American, but it's great to see people doing things like hiring, historical consultants, in some cases, other types of sensitivity readers in order to, write a story that addresses the issues of perhaps minorities that they're not, part of, but are trying to tell their stories, but not trying to do some sort of stereotypical write-up of the characters themselves. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Have you guys ever been to Angel Island? It starts off, the book, I should note, starts off with Hark, in Angel Island, mistakenly assumed to be a foreign immigrant. And so he's put there accidentally. I actually took a trip to Angel Island as a kid. I didn't realize the significance that it was basically, our port of entry for California in terms of immigration.
It was the West Coast Ellis Island.
It was like a port of entry concentration camp from what the back of the book was describing.
Well, and yeah, I mean, honestly, through his research of this, he discovered a lot of history that I only, recently, probably within the past 10 years, discovered regarding California's discrimination practices against Asians. In fact, there was one law I wasn't even aware of that I discovered maybe about 4 years ago that involved, I think it was passed in the 1940s. They don't address it at all, I think, in this book. But in the 1940s, it was actually banned for Asians to marry a white person. And it wasn't repealed until the 60s that an Asian could marry a white person.
That was a common law for any, I think, throughout the nation. That was that movie Love. It was about the couple the husband's last name was Love. Minorities weren't allowed to marry Caucasian people until it wasn't legal really until the 60s, like late 60s. So
Wild.
yeah, because the book's really it starts off on Angel Island, and the character's got a lot of self-loathing because people assume because he's, well, I guess it all fits under the ACAB, because he's a Chinese cop, that he's gonna help the Chinese people out, Chinese Americans out, and he doesn't at all most of the time. He's actually just acts as like a way for the Caucasian cops to get in to the community, so then that they can just fuck with people. And he immediately lets someone down, like he does throughout the book. He lets this kid down who thinks he's going to be there to help him out and show him how to make art, and he just bails on the kid.
What if the world of the dead
was just a plane ride away?
Quest Friends is a supernatural role-playing podcast where 5 best friends explore the fun of everyday life in the afterlife.
Average annoyances spiral into fantastical adventures inspired by cartoons like Gravity Falls and The Owl House.
Listen to our ghostly adventures at questfriendspodcast.com
or by searching Quest Friends on your favorite podcasting app.
My name is T2756. Would you like to have sex with me now for money?
Worst Movies Ever Played is back with 3 new VHS movies for your ears.
Sextapede, you're alive again. How I've missed you.
Anything can happen in this actual play RPG podcast, and we mean anything.
You didn't think you could go to Texas Instruments without murdering someone, did you?
Subscribe to Worst Movies Ever Played wherever you get your podcasts.
There's one point of the story that is very important that I'm kind of confused on, and maybe I didn't read this part. But so he comes from Honolulu, right? Because obviously his inspiration. So he's a Honolulu cop. But how does he have any jurisdiction or authority or anything in San Francisco? It almost seems like, oh, he flashes his badge. Oh, you're a cop. Like if I saw someone from Florida, hey, I'm a Florida sheriff, I was like, yeah, okay, so what? So it's just weird to me that, you know, the police force works with him, like he's just like fully integrated, like as if, oh yeah, you have all the authority of being a San Francisco cop, even though you're basically from Honolulu. It's just weird to me. Like it almost seems like they give him, you know, they make him a member of the team.
I didn't even catch that part. Where did it say that in the book? I didn't.
Well, because he comes over from Honolulu. It seems like whatever happened between Mason and Eddie when he was younger, when he wound up slapping him, he runs away, goes to Honolulu, but then he comes back when Mason is sick and Ivy Chin has gone missing. And so he's flashing his badge around in San Francisco. So, yeah, I'm not sure if he was a cop before he left or he became a cop in Honolulu, or maybe they're just like, you've got a badge, you've got jurisdiction everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally missed that whole storyline somehow.
But I think that might be the case. Like he was a cop before he left, and then went. It's also never explained the scar on his face. He's got
right.
that.
Well, I assume that's opening some sort of flashback eventually that will happen.
Yeah, in volume 2, they might be tied together somehow.
All right. Well, so yeah, then we cut from Angel Island. We cut to basically Detective O'Malley beating a suspect to try to find the location of the missing lady, Ivy Chen. And so Hark is sort of sitting back watching all of this. And like you said, Johnny, you know, the Chinese Americans were kind of in shock to see a Chinese cop, but he wasn't helping them. And they assumed that he was going to like advocate for them or something like that. And he just sits back as Detective O'Malley beats the suspect and throws a bunch of slurs out there, which, you know, it's funny. They use the word, I'm guessing you guys don't have any experience with this, but they use the word Oriental a lot. And it hit me really weird because growing up, that's the word my parents used a lot. So I didn't necessarily see Oriental as bad, but then there was a shift. I assume it's kind of like Black, African American, you know, those shifts in what the particular minority felt was appropriate, you know, how they wanted to be identified. And for my parents, they didn't mind being called Oriental. So when they threw that word out there in the book, it was a bit of a shock for me because I don't normally regard myself as Oriental because it's like an othering word. But it was interesting to me because, yeah, it made me realize, oh, yeah, back then that was kind of how they identified themselves. But there were also some other Asian derogatory terms, coolies and such, that I do recall remembering either being called or hearing in the background.
Someone called you a coolie one time? Holy shit.
I mean, I grew up with pretty much a diverse group of people, but I did know a couple of full-on white supremacists in school. And so, yeah, they were very homophobic and racist.
Damn.
It didn't really surprise me. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to hear those terms thrown around. I didn't feel it too gratuitous. I felt it added a bit of authenticity to the time period. So, I mean, I guess content warning if you're not prepared for that. But I thought it was pretty well handled in terms of kind of giving a real authenticity to the book without being so oppressive that it's like, geez, he's saying it like every other time.
Well, they use a lot of like noir film speak in this too. So I think it's definitely the writing. They're using the language of that era and the genre. I don't think it's done to hurt anybody. It's just showing like, hey, that's how people referred to Asian Americans back then.
Well, I agree with Dennis that I think there's a good balance, because I think it was definitely toned down from how they actually would have been talking, which is fine, because like we don't need reality, just like a sprinkle, and we lets us know like, oh yeah, we know how they were talking about.
Yeah, because they dropped the C word in there several times.
Right?
The white detective drops the C word in there several times.
And also during this scene, we get a little bit of, and I like how they introduce this, which is Hark's power, quote unquote. It's basically his CSI vision ability. You get to see how he sees clues. So it does these little red boxes around certain things that he's picking up on. And sometimes he explains it in his internal monologue. Sometimes he doesn't, but it gives the reader clues as to what he's looking at. And so I kind of like that. I mean, it's sort of futuristic CSI, like, computer enhance.
I think it's just shown what has caught his eye, because that's established in the beginning when he's illustrating with that kid at the camp. Well, it's not a camp. It's a
jail. Processing jail.
He says he's got an eye for things and he always notices stuff. So I think, I don't think he's actually seeing red. It's just,
oh no. I mean, I say quote unquote power is that this is basically the kind of gimmick that they're doing, that they're introducing to, when you see it later on, you understand what's going on.
But he does, within being an ACAB, he does try to like protect people, because he gives up when they do that heroin bust or the opium bust. He throws the dad under the bus to protect his wife and son in the house. Like, he gives them up because he knows there's something more going on there, probably that someone doesn't have proper documents and citizenship. So he's like, well, I can choose the lesser of two evils and I'll give up the dad, so it's really, it's a complicated character. Like, he does shitty things while also trying to be protective of the community.
I mean, I would say this is probably very common among anyone trying to work within the system, especially law enforcement, I would say, but anyone trying to work within the system, and especially that time period where you're trying to better your people, you're trying to rise above. It's not a selfish thing per se, where you're trying to rise above and be, better than everyone else, but you're trying to raise your community, protect your community, but you have to work within the confines of the society you live in. And so how much do you push that at the risk of being ejected and basically losing that power so that you can't help anyone, or working within the system and sort of doing that balance where, I can't help this person, but I can help that person. And by doing some good, I can at least rationalize why I'm doing some bad. And I'm sure it's a very tough internal struggle that a lot of people to this day struggle with when they're entering into the system, whether it be law enforcement or what have you, where they're trying to make a difference. You can say, well, just screw it all, but then if you don't have any representation, then you really give it up to the other side. And so you have to have people in there, but then to maintain that purity.
I don't even know if he wants to be a cop. It seems like his true calling is art. And I'm curious how he became a cop. Like if in volume 2 you find out like what pushed him into being a cop.
I think the motivation is the murder of his mother.
Yeah, for sure. Just at one point, in response to what Dennis was saying, at one point he has a line where he says, if you want to change things from within, you have to be a rat. And so that sort of explains his motivation. But yeah, I absolutely think he got into police work because of the murder of his mother. And I bet the scar is involved too.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I forgot exactly where in the book he starts talking about this, but it really hit home for me where, your parents, as a child of immigrants, your parents really push you to be Americanized. I think it's when he was describing how neat and clean and perfect Terrence Chang is. Like Terrence Chang's hair and appearance is super clean cut and Americanized. And that's the goal of your immigrant parents. They don't want you to be seen as other. They don't want you to be discriminated against because of your accent, because of how you look and posture.
Also, Terrence Chang is trying to fit in as a straight man when he's actually a gay man. So I think there's like a double.
Right. Well, he doesn't know that, and at least initially when he's describing that. He discovers that later when he finds the developed blackmail photos. But yeah, it's a struggle where you're trying to kind of honor your parents. Like your parents gave up a lot to come to this country, gave up a lot, or working hard, long hours in order for you to become an American. And so if you don't, then you're almost dishonoring your entire family and their struggles to just get you here. And so there's a lot of weight in terms of trying to honor your heritage and fit in.
Well, and that's a thread throughout the whole thing with like the six, what do they call it? The six companies?
Six companies.
How their whole thing is like, we have to come up, we have to all work together to improve our image so that Americans accept us. Just that shitty double-edged sword there. Like you have to lose yourself to fit in.
Yeah, and that whole thing, it makes me so sad because it makes total sense, but also the idea that you could ever do that, like that you could ever be enough to override America's racism, you won't. No matter how much money you have, no matter how much you fit into this cookie cutter image of what an American is supposed to be, you'll never be seen as just normal. You'll always be seen as other because of the just inherent racism in everything in America, which the back of the book also goes into, like the long history of how it was all founded on that. Like people who weren't white weren't seen as human.
And about every 20 years, like they list all the different immigration policies that have been enacted. Mm-hmm. And it's roughly about every 20 years, 30 years, some fear of others, some xenophobia. They blame job loss on other people coming in, or you're not getting paid enough because others are coming in. And like every 30 years or so, some shitty politician enacts something. We saw it most recently with the Trump presidency, with immigration policy changes and banning Muslims from coming into not all Muslims, but a majority of Muslim countries, that have majority of Muslim religion in their population, were banned from traveling into the country. It's just this rampant fear of others.
I wish people would recognize, like, there is generally a consensus that like Nazis are bad, especially except within the communities of Nazis, obviously. But people throw the word around as like Nazi is like the worst villain you can be. But I wish people would recognize that that's literally what they did. That's literally how Hitler did his shtick, is to just demonize Jewish people as the reason you can't get a job. And like that's just the classic way that you start a genocide, that you other a group of people and you get into power based on that kind of platform. And that's what we've been doing, exactly the same thing the whole time, to the point where the Nazis actually looked to the United States for tips on how to be better Nazis. And we think we're better and we're not.
Well, and then what's interesting too is this is a snapshot in time in terms of society where this is before Asians become the quote unquote model minority. So they're still the super other. And so it isn't until later that they're repurposed and packaged to be this shining example, so to speak, that you're supposed to be, which is just to cause infighting within minority groups. But it just proves that, you know, they weren't always viewed like that in the past. And in fact, you know, much like recent immigrants, like Johnny pointed out, they were the scapegoats in terms of the reason why you don't have a job, the reason why we're in, you know, a depression, etc. So yeah. But yeah, going back to the book, we cut to Hark going to the Carroway mansion, meeting with Mason and his son Frankie. It's basically divulged that they're looking for this Ivy Chen, who was a maid upstairs. That it's implied, right, Johnny, that she may have had a relationship with the elder Mason. She's a 25-year-old.
Well, it sounds like Mason had feelings for her, and then we later find out, spoiler, that Frankie and Ivy actually had romantic feelings and kissed. And Mason is so powerful. Like, this is the thing, their daughter, he also has a daughter who, this seems like maybe Eddie and the daughter had some sort of relationship in the past, romantic relationship. Mason is so powerful that Ivy and Frankie immediately realize, like, oh, this was a mistake, we can't do this. And maybe that's why she left. Don't know. Oh, one thing I was going to say earlier, I forgot. So in Eddie's ability to notice things, he later, in trying to track down Ivy, finds a friend of hers that they got. It's really cool the way he can track things down. Like, he winds up going to this one person, and then that person winds up taking him to a tailor, and then the tailor winds up revealing some information. Like, that part of the noir storytelling, Pornsak did like tremendous job of just like following threads, having Eddie follow threads. But the friend has red braids in her hair, and I thought, was that something he was noticing, like we were supposed to notice through him, or was that just coincidental she was wearing? Because the colors in this are sometimes muted, and that red braid in her hair was very vibrant.
That's a good point. I think totally, because I think they're going to end up in a relationship later. I'm forgetting the name of that character. I'm going to look it up. Does anyone remember?
Lucy Fan.
Lucy. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I bet you anything that was on purpose, because you're right. There's not a lot of vibrant colors, and not a lot, like red, it seems like was exclusively used to show what's catching Eddie's eye, and then it's on Lucy.
I mean, yeah, I go back and forth just critiquing the art on whether or not I like the color choices. I do. It's a lot of brown. And when you do see color, it's amazing. When they eventually go to the nightclub, there's like, I think in real life, it turns out to be a 2-page panel.
Yeah, splash page.
But it's amazing. I mean, it's vibrant. It really pops. It really shows the energy of this cabaret nightclub. And so I appreciate that. But yeah, there's so much brown that when you do see the colors, like, wow.
I think that's to reflect his view of the world. Like, he's this is a really unhappy character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just like an artistic choice of like how he sees things. Because when he does see that vibrancy in the nightclub, it awakens something in him.
I would concur. Now that you mention it, because there's a point where before he enters the nightclub, the Jade Castle, he spots, which I think you find out later is at least 2 prostitutes. And I really like that scene where, you know, it kind of invoked some sort of lust in him. And so it cut to different, you know, parts of like the lips and everything of the ladies. And those were really colorful as well. And you can tell that evoked some kind of emotion in him. And so, yeah, those colors popped a lot more than the rest of the pages.
I will say that scene is one that I take issue with. Not that he was like looking at their lips and shit, but the fact the dialogue then, and it's a very classic noir thing. So I was like, okay, noir trope, where he says something along the lines of like, oh, women, my weakness, they're gonna destroy me. Like, you know, it's that general vibe. That's not what he says, but it's like, oh, it's because of women that bad things happen to me is essentially what he's saying. And I hate that shit. You're in control of yourself, dude.
Partially, like, I was wondering if they were implying like white women specifically, because that's a white lady.
That's more valid.
See, I think that was part of it, because I got it was almost like this is a callback to a super early episode of the podcast, Shortcomings, where the main character in that, who's Japanese American, gets called out by his friends for saying, like, you know, you you have a thing for white women. It's like white guys who have fetishism for Asian women. It's
right.
I'm curious if it's more that, like it's
well, because he's very interested and fantasizes when he actually sleeps with that very particular prostitute, Victoria. So,
and it's all vibrant colors when he's sleeping with her.
So he has very specific tastes.
And it could be a way that makes him feel like I fit in, like I'm sleeping with white women.
No, absolutely. That's another, how do you unpack the onion of self-loathing when in terms of race? That's a thing. Is like, are you actually interested in that woman because you're just inherently interested, or is it some sort of way of seeking the American dream, quote unquote, and having a white wife, girlfriend is a way of obtaining it? So it's complicated.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably more intermixed, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's where like it circles back around to what I was saying, because absolutely you can't really unpack your genuine attraction if you loathe yourself and everything about yourself and your history, and you haven't unpacked your history. But it does ultimately come down to choice, like making it about like it's the white woman's fault that he's has to sleep with them.
Yeah.
But I understand, like, it's a really good storytelling device. Like, it really gives us a good picture of this character.
And I totally get what you're saying, Aubrey, in terms of like, I'm just helpless. If she wasn't so sexy, it's her fault that I'm attracted, not that I have the ability to control my urges, sort of thing. So yeah,
it's the equivalent of when the Thunderbirds in Greece have to bite their knuckles when a pink lady walks by. I just wanted to bring up Thunderbirds and pink ladies. Yeah, overall, man, this book was so good. No wonder it's gotten tons of accolades. I'm just blown away. I can't wait to read volume 2. This book was so good.
Me too.
Well, yeah, and I just did a little bit of looking into, because honestly, Pornsak is sort of new to me. And apparently he has another series of comic books. One was like Infidel.
Yeah, Infidel, which I think is wrapped up.
Yeah, and it was highly rated. He's also written for TV. And so, yeah, amazing writing. The art by the French artist is really good. I enjoy it. I thought things were conveyed really well. I enjoyed the fight scenes that involved the Hatchet Man.
Yeah, we didn't even get into that character. Turns out to, well, we won't spoil it. Read it, like who the character turns out to be. I'm really curious how that ties back into the family and the Carroways and the community. And he's preying, this Hatchet Man is preying upon an old triad war that really happened in Chinatown, up the West Coast from like Seattle down to San Francisco. It was happening, this Tong battle. And he's like this character's playing on Chinese superstitions around this, like legend, I should say superstition, but the legend of these like gangsters that have been.
He's sort of like Candyman.
Yeah. But the gangs were real. Like they terrorized the Chinese community. And then about 10 years before this, they had been kind of driven out of San Francisco.
Well, the Tongs, which is basically a brotherhood and is associated with crime, that was still a problem well into recent times. So that's not something that went away.
What did they call them in Hardboiled?
Were they triad that one? I
triad. Forget. No, I don't know. Well, I don't know what makes them a triad or not.
Oh, the movie you guys reviewed for Bring Your Own Popcorn?
Mm-hmm.
Another noir tale.
Yeah. What did you think, Aubrey, overall?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. When I got to the last page, because you never know, it's in the digital versions, you never quite know when the last page is coming because you don't know how much back pages there are. And I got to the last page and I literally like gasped out loud and was like, oh no.
I know.
I really wanted to know what happened next.
And I was like, damn it. I didn't realize we were just leaving this on a cliffhanger. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, no, it's just really good. Like really artfully exploring noir from the perspective of the first Chinese detective, and great historical research was done and used in this artful way where it didn't just like read like it was history. They just sprinkled it in there, but still brought all of these characters to life and turn some tropes on their head, and very noir in that you think things are going one way sometimes and they turn out to be something else. It's really good. And the art's great too.
This feels like I know we just reviewed this book, but it feels like a good companion to Miss Marvel, because it's really about trying to fit in America and its xenophobia and otherisms. Like, it just, I don't know, it just felt like I'm glad we read these two back to back. It just feels like companion books.
Although part of it is really sad because of its accuracy. You can see how, 1930s America versus Kamala Khan's, modern America, and things haven't really changed that much. Sure, some of the racism is a little more subversive and not as overt, but it's still there. And the challenges that immigrants have to face is still there. It's just, maybe slightly changed, but
there's a better face on it.
Right.
Like the racism has a more friendly face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final thoughts for you, Dennis?
Well, I think I said it all. It's great. Awesome book. I really enjoyed the story. It's another great example. I've said this in many, many episodes, but this is great where you can have exposition woven throughout the story without a whole paragraph of things where one character just spouts off lore. You can just sprinkle. I mean, this sprinkle in history in a very fascinating way, showing how, family trees can work and everything like that without, combining the art with words, so that you weren't just bored to death looking at a wall of text. And yeah, and it set up the mystery where it's like, oh, this seems artificial. No, it feels very organic and very detective-like. And yeah, I was upset at the cliffhanger at the end, but it's still very satisfying, and I definitely want to pick up the next volume.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to say that I really liked about it. I loved when we switched to Lucy's perspective. Like, all of a sudden, it was just like we were hearing her internal dialogue and seeing Eddie through her eyes and hearing her thoughts. So we were getting even more background on this universe that we were in. I really loved that.
By the way, a little bit of trivia too. So that call center that she worked at, where people call in and they transfer you to a different phone number. All those people had to memorize all the phone numbers. So that's amazing to me. They're like, oh, you're wanting to call this person? Okay, let me, hook you up to that line. And they would manually change the phone lines so that you were connected to whoever you were trying to call. So that's like nuts to me.
Damn.
That's what the operators did up until, I think, the 60s. Hello?
That's so intense.
I need KL5 Beach 92.
I've seen John Wick. They're still doing it.
The realism of a John Wick movie.
Another noir.
Oh, that's assassin noir. Well, Aubrey, where can people follow you if they want to do that?
Mixtape_Majesty on Twitter, Mixtape Majesty on Instagram, or you can follow my podcast at Bring Popcorn Pod on Twitter or Bring Your Own Popcorn on Instagram.
And what about this podcast, Dennis?
Twitter and Insta at GN Explorers Club.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode.
Bye.